My name is Gurumustuk Singh, and I was born a Sikh. My parents adopted the Sikh religion in the 60s, early 70s. They got into Kundalini yoga and meditation, and Sri Singh Sahib Bhai Sahib Harbhajan Singh Khalsa Yogi Ji. He came to America and he started teaching about spirituality. At the time, many people were doing drugs and trying to get these artificial experiences to experience God or experience something and kind of have a higher consciousness. And through meditation and Kundalini yoga that Yogi Bhajan taught, he showed that these are just simple tools that you can use to live stress-free, have a healthier lifestyle, and also to clean out the garbage of your mind. And that these were very complementary to that anybody could do, whether you're a Sikh or not. And so my parents, when they saw him and they were curious about his religion and they wanted to know more. And like many of the other people at that time, many of those people were attracted to the Sikh lifestyle, which added a lot to their lives. Growing up as a Sikh in America is not easy. When I was growing up, I remember going to school and kids teasing me, whether it was the sprouts. My mother used to put, grow some seeds, and she would put like sprouts on my sandwich. And they used to tease me that either I was a girl or that I was eating worms. When I was 8 years old, I went to boarding school in India. This was in the 80s. It was a whole different world. This was a time when you didn't just pick up the phone or send an email or FaceTime or Skype somebody. This was like you send a letter and it takes a month if it even gets there. I don't think it was the values so much as what I got, but the experience that I got by being another culture. The challenge is that, I didn't just have my mom or dad to run to when there was something. I had to deal with things. I had to be responsible. I had to become more mature and independent. The Sri Singh Sahib used to talk about, like you're like the coal that through all the pressures and the challenges that you deal with, that you become like a diamond. When I was a teenager in school, I had to deal with a lot of my friends getting into drugs, alcohol, smoking, and I experimented with some of that as well. And the interest in girls and relationships and sex and that sort of thing were all things that at that time that we're all dealing with. And I remember at that time reading a lot about the various things that the Sri Singh Sahib taught, that he taught a lot to like my parents about drugs and relationships and those sort of things. And I remember just sucking that up, like this was so inspiring to me. So when I had certain challenges, like a girl that I liked just wanted to be friends, that was pretty hard for me emotionally. And I used the tools, meditation, in order to handle that. And at that time, I was like, there's got to be some resources for other youth, also, whether you're Sikh or not. These are things that youth deal with all the time. So I was trying to think of how can we create resources that are presented in a way that other youth can relate to. And that was kind of the impetus for a starting of an idea, which was, well, why don't I get a bunch of my friends together and let's make a book. Let's put together a book of different things that we find that are inspiring tools or information or resources or something. And so with that idea, I started going through books and manuals and different kinds of resources that were available and with some of my friends, and started to take notes and put together some materials. So now fast forward a little bit of time. I graduated from high school. The internet kind of became more popular, and the first visual web browser, Mozilla, came out, and I started my first web page. And when I did that, I realized this was really the tool and the technology that we needed to reach the youth. In November 1995 was when I completed the first website. It wasn't yet called SikhNet at the time. It was, I always kind of laugh about the name that I came up with. It was like inspiration something, some long thing. And it's kind of embarrassing when I read it now, but that was kind of like my first stab at things. And it wasn't even Sikh specific. It was just on spirituality and things that Sri Singh Sahib, who was an inspiration to me, where I put these collection of things online. So working at Sun & Son, I had my full-time job doing that, and some of the skills and things that I learned there I applied to this other website, which still wasn't called SikhNet at the time, and I continued to develop that. I then met Guruji Singh, who was one of the founders of the Sun & Son company. He talked to me about SikhNet, of this bulletin board system that he had set up, which started in the 80s, and at that point in time had kind of run its course, and people were moving to the internet, and it was kind of had stopped. And so we talked, and we thought that would be great. This would be a great, we'll call this website SikhNet and continue this project under that same mission and banner, because they were really kind of very similar and incongruent. So in 1996, our first SikhNet webpage came online. SikhNet used to be something that I did in my free time. I had a regular full-time job, and at night and the weekends, I would just work on this. It was like my passion. It was something that was very rewarding because it was more than just a 9-to-5 job. So, I was working all the time, and at a certain point, I kind of started getting carpal tunnel. My wrists were hurting all the time. I mean, keep in mind, I was just a teenager too. So, I had lots of energy, enthusiasm, and I wanted, so it was really exciting. And at a certain point, I wasn't able to do that. My wrists were all inflamed and hurting, and I had to take time off from work, and I was on leave for disability for a period of time to get treatments. And at that point, it was kind of a fork in the road, and I was like, I can't do both of these things. It would be great if I could just do this as a seva, but as full-time, do this as a job, just as other organizations. People do it because they're passionate. So at that time, I talked with Guru Rupkar, who at the time was running one of the Sikh Dharma offices in Espanola, and she loved what I was doing with SikhNet, and we decided that we would do this under Sikh Dharma as the organization, Sikh Dharma, and that I would start to work part-time doing just doing SikhNet. And that was the direction I was going to slowly do that as full-time. During that period, I started a new service called the SikhMatrimonials.com, and that was way ahead of the curve of any other matrimonial kind of dating or single services at the time. So from the early years, Sikh Matrimonials, the revenue from that is what supported having staff, paying for the servers, and various other things. And then as time passed, and as the rest of the internet and other companies came up and started competing with that wasn't really my passion to be the matrimonials company. My heart was really about becoming a vehicle, or creating SikhNet as a vehicle to help people have more open mind, have experiences, communicate and share with each other. And so at that point we started shifting from being primarily matrimonial revenue driven, but getting community support through donations. In 2001, that became really important because we had September 11th. During my journey with SikhNet even, I was still trying to find who I was as a Sikh. I got back from boarding school. I didn't have many Sikh friends that I knew, and I wanted to experience this Western culture and all these things that I wasn't supposed to do. And I went out to clubs. I went out to various places. Really, I wanted a girlfriend. I wanted to not be always standing out. I had my hair down in a ponytail and I'd put a little cap on. And I used to smoke, drink, and going out to these places, it was this kind of like this empty feeling that I got from that this yearning that this isn't the right way. This wasn't feeding me. Standing out and looking different was something that I had to deal with as a youth. That why do I have this long hair, or feeling uncomfortable about having a beard? Like my first girlfriend, at the time I had this little bits of hair, and she was slowly trying to influence me. Like, it would be like nice if you didn't have that there. And it felt so awkward, like this isn't who I am. I don't feel right, like changing who I am to meet what society or what other people are forcing on me. And at that point, I was kind of in a pivotal time. And I remember Sri Singh Sahib, I'm meeting with him, and he was like, you're being like a wolf at night and an eagle in the day. You have this duality of who you are. It's tearing you apart. You need to make the choice. It's like, this is the second strike, get your act together. And it happened to be that year that I went to this winter solstice, this camp that we have in Florida. We also have it in the summer here, summer solstice. And this is a camp where a lot of our community go to. It's kind of a multicultural, multi-religious background. There's a lot of Sikhs that go, and we practice yoga and meditation and Sikh Dharma learning. And at that camp is where I met my current wife, Arjun Kaur. And when I met her, she was from a non-Sikh family. She had just recently become a Sikh, and she was so in love with this Dharma, just the kirtan and the chanting and all the lifestyle of the gurus, and in addition to the various things that she learned that Sri Singh Sahib was teaching. She was so in love with that. And when I came there and I had these like baggy fat pants, these club kind of like, I'm so cool, and like trying to look all like, yeah. I remember I got dressed up for Gurdwara. She was like, you look so great in Bana. And I was like, wow. It was so different, like somebody who loved me or liked me or thought I was attractive for who I am. When I met her, I felt like I could just be myself. And that was kind of like a pivotal point in terms of my journey as a Sikh, where I know, okay, I'm covered. I have a woman who is a strong, devoted Sikh, and I can like stop looking for a friend, and because I feel like for me as a teenager, that whole like romantic finding your partner side was a big part of a lot of the challenges that I had and in my identity as a Sikh, and I know many people feel that same way. So I met her in 1996. That was still in the early days of SikhNet. When I first started SikhNet, my motivations was primarily focused towards the youth, because I was going through all these challenges in my own life. And as I was going through those challenges, I was able to, through SikhNet, share what I was learning. Before Facebook, all the social networks and chats and all that things that we do now, SikhNet was really a place that people connected from all over the world with other people. It was kind of like a virtual Gurdwara. I can't tell you how many emails I got from people who were in various remote parts of the world. They didn't have a community, they didn't have a Gurdwara, or they longed to connect with other Sikhs and share their love for the Guru. And they did that through discussion forums. We used to have a live chat room, and that was a very popular way of making new friends. And we had a Sikh directory where you could look for other Sikhs in various areas, look for other Gurdwaras. You could find a job. We had a job directory. We had lots of different tools for networking. And I remember when I got married, some of the chat friends from the SikhNet chat lobby, they came to my wedding. I'd never met them in my life, but we became so close and good friends through a virtual world that it was, they came to my wedding, and it was SikhNet over time kind of became an online community. Before I had my full-time job as SikhNet, I had my other job, and I had a little mixer thing on the side, and I would actually play CDs and put music on in real time, and it would be like, I was like the DJ, and on Friday nights I would throw in some bhangra or something just for fun, it's like, okay, have a fun weekend. Like that was the earlier days where, it was small but very, people really, really appreciated it, and we connected a lot. And as SikhNet grew, it changed. The focus of SikhNet changed from just being like youth-oriented and connecting to really providing so many more services. So SikhNet has had to adopt and change to meet the needs of the time. So many of the services that we had then, we no longer really develop further, and they're kind of expired. And with that, we've started new services. So like many years ago, we started the kids' audio stories section. This was something that was inspiring for me because I remember growing up, when I was a young kid, there were these audio stories by this man, Singh. At the time too, I was 12 years ago, I had my first son, and so I was very much in that parent, being a husband, and now this new experience of being a parent. So it was kind of like this next chapter in the stage of SikhNet, you could say, that is playing out in many ways through my own life. That was really where having SikhNet's users support SikhNet really became crucial, because it's like, if it's you do this as your free time and you have your $19.99 free host, simple web hosting, but once you start getting to be a much bigger website and you have a lot of traffic, we had our own dedicated server, we had our own internet line, we had staff and business office expenses and various other things, that it started taking a lot more time and money in order to be able to continue these things. SikhNet is my mission, it's my passion and my job. If I wanted to make lots of money, I would be in a different line of work. All of us here at SikhNet are here because we're inspired by the mission of how SikhNet can change people's lives and uplift people, and it's with your support, with the donor support, that we are able to do this work, that we can't do this without your support. It's just not possible. I'd just like to say thank you to many of you who've been with me on this journey from the very beginning when I was 20 years old. Now 18 years later, we're all still here together, growing and serving in many more ways, and I hope you'll be a part of that by continuing to support SikhNet in whatever way that you can. Thank you. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. SikhNet is really about nurturing everybody's unique identity and their each person's own background, which may be different, but celebrating all the diversity and appreciating that through this diversity we share and learn from each other, that what I may have to share, I have lots to learn from somebody else.